Good afternoon, Dr. Pudlowski. My name is Blake Dennis. So Jerry Wiseman presents a plethora of useful tools and methods for us to take advantage of in his book, Presenting to Win. Wiseman himself is a presentations coach that is well versed in his craft, which is evident in the corporations and businesses that have utilized his services, Yahoo, Microsoft, and Intel, to name a few. Now, through these experiences as a presentations coach, Wiseman has formulated and given us as the reader, a valuable list of skills that we can use to help us evolve into better presenters. So, from my perspective, some of the most valuable of these skills come from Chapter 2, where Wiseman describes the WIFI. The WIFI being the what's in it for the audience specifically is the key question that keeps the audience moving along from point A to point B by emphasizing what it is from the presentation that is of benefit to them. The WIFI is important because it cuts back on the unnecessary fluff of a presentation that could otherwise misguide the audience or detract from the point being made in the presentation specifically. I found in Chapter 4 the concepts discussed to be important as well, specifically when Wiseman talks about these 16 flow structures. Now, Wiseman describes these 16 flow structures as the order in which the ideas presented in the presentation will flow. The reason why I consider this concept to be so important is that it is so flexible and adaptable for the presenter. Previously, I never considered presenting as something that could be categorized in this way until I read Chapter 4. After this chapter, I understand how valuable it can be to properly arrange the ideas in your presentation according to one of the 16 flow structures in order for the point to be as effective as possible. I also considered Chapter 6 to be one of the most important as well. In this chapter, Wiseman discusses how to properly format and use graphs, charts, and data in a presentation so that the graphics reinforce the objective of the presentation. And, I thought this to be important as, my behavior and actions in the past. I thought of graphs and charts to be almost like a slide filler during a presentation. Rather than expound upon the data that I was presenting, I would kind of let the audience interpret the data at will. And, now thinking back, I understand why I had lost so many audience members that I did. Instead, those graphics are meant to work hand in hand with the information that I'm speaking on. Now, almost all the concepts discussed in Presenting to Win had some useful value to me in my career. However, none of them would be as impactful as the concept of the WIFI. So in my current position as a salesperson, persuasion's everything. And moving up in my company requires one to be a successful salesperson with the numbers to prove it. However, with my limited experience, I'm still trying to figure, which strategies and methods work best with my style of selling. By emphasizing why a certain product or feature is beneficial for a customer, and subsequently cutting away all that useless fluff from the sales pitch, I feel as though I'll be able to progress to manager's assistant soon enough. So with each week of Business 349, I've had a couple verses stick with me personally. The first one being James 5:8, which goes on to say how you must be patient, keep your hopes high, for the day of the Lord's coming is near. This verse can be applied to the course in a number of ways. The first comes from the idea of being patient, of course. Everything from anticipating a grade on a BAC exercise to anticipating a presentation. It all requires us to be patient, and when we exercise patience, we are ultimately rewarded in the end. So the second verse that kind of stuck with me throughout this class comes from Colossians 3:23 to 24, which states, "Whatever you do, work heartily as for the Lord and not for men, knowing that from the Lord you will receive the inheritance as your reward. You are serving the Lord Christ." This verse can be applicable to the concepts of this course, and even more so to my current position in sales. Even though I have a limited experience, I've begun to notice that in the midst of selling or even presenting, it can be difficult to forget who we are meant to be serving as we attempt to persuade our audience. I get wrapped up trying to please or work for that audience to try and get that product sold in any way possible. Even though we might have that audience, it's important to work in such a way as to please God no matter what it is that we do. So the final verse that I figured could be applicable to the concepts of this course, and arguably my favorite verse from the Bible comes from Psalms 46:10, which states, "Be still and know that I am God. I will be exalted among the nations, and I will be exalted in the earth." So similarly to James 5:8, the opening line of Psalm 46:10 can be applied to almost all aspects of life, whether that be in business or personal lives. In the midst of success, like a promotion or a good grade, or failure, such as a bad grade or a challenging quarter, God is always with us, and His love is unceasing, and it may just take a moment in prayer to be reminded of that fact.